everybody, welcome to another episode of the Balderdash Podcast. On this week's episode, we are going to be talking about a woman who took drastic measures to protect herself during the SARS outbreak in Taiwan. Also, the Mcdonald's in the Philippines has some very interesting items on their menu. Lastly, we'll talk about how the state of Illinois is eliminating their grocery tax. What does this mean for Illinoisans? We'll find out all that and more on this week's episode of the Balderdash Podcast. God dang it. God dang it. Man, that wasn't on the whole time. God dang it. Fuck. A woman died in Taiwan from bathing in alcohol during the SARS outbreak in the early 2000s. This was brought to me by new listener Sharita. And see guys, this is what happens when you tell me about topics. I talk about them, especially if I find them very interesting. And this story is a very interesting story. So to preface all the story, over 30 countries were struck by the between 2002 and 2004 by the SARS outbreak, with 8,096 people affected and 774 people dying from the disease overall. One of the countries that was hit by the virus was Taiwan. According to the Taiwan CDC, there were 664 probable cases of SARS in the country between March and June of 2003, with 346 confirmed via PCR or antibody tests. Of all these cases, 73 were fatal. And this is kind of understandable because it's understandable that people want to avoid this illness. It's kind of like when COVID happened. All these people were trying to figure out different ways to get rid of COVID without taking the vaccine because they didn't trust the vaccine. You know, y'all remember people talked about injecting bleach inside your body. People was trying to use disinfectant and trying to leave that on their skin, you know, crazy ideas and stuff like that. And this is kind of one of those things. This was a crazy idea, right? So unfortunately, a 45-year-old woman in Taiwan died due to an unusual effort to ward off the virus. The woman ended up passing away after bathing in 40.5% ethanol for an extended period of time. Right? She had put herself into the fluid around 11 p.m., believing it would prevent the SARS, and was found dead at 11 a.m. the next day by her family. This was an article that was written and published by the Forensic Science International in 2005. The woman's blood alcohol concentration was found to be 1,350 milligrams per 100 milliliters of blood, or 1.35. For context, a BAC of 0.4 can be fatal, right? So 0.4 is fatal. She had 1.35%, right? That's crazy. According to the calculations done by the author, she would have to absorb 1.5 liters of this 40% alcohol to reach that BAC, right? So this lady had to absorb a liter. Like, you go to the gas station, right? And you got your liter of Mountain Dew. Okay, she had to ingest one of those and then half of another one, right? Almost 2 liters of this 40% alcohol was in her body, right? There have only been a couple of other cases where this has happened, right? In 2010, in December of 2010, a man was reportedly arrested in Queenstown, South Africa, after driving a van containing 5 boys, a woman, and 15 allegedly stolen sheep. Allegedly. Okay. His BAC was found to be 1.6, right? So his was even higher. But they say a lot of these cases are only 1%. So not very many people survive something like this. And also, too, the article, it went more into talking about, like, of course, your height, your weight. So this guy in this particular story that they mentioned, he was a big dude, right? A lot of this was inhaled. Like, part of it was inhaled, most of it was absorbed through the skin there. It says when she was found in the bathtub, the woman's head was above the fluid level of the bathtub because the bathtub was so small, right, to fit her entire body. So during the research, it's unlikely that she drank a large amount of it, right? And she also didn't show any signs of trauma or ingestion of drugs or drowning, right? So all this was absorbed through her body, right? And I think it's crazy that we as people, we kind of don't know our bodies. Like, we do, but we don't, right? Like, I don't know about you, but I never really thought about, like, your skin absorbing, like, everything around you, right? It wasn't until this story came about that I really started thinking about that. Like lotion, right? You put lotion in, it just doesn't sit on top of your skin. No, it's absorbed into your skin, right? It gets under your skin. It's kind of crazy because I was listening to Star Talk, which is Neil deGrasse Tyson's podcast, right? And they were talking about the universe. They wanted to see what was the universe made up of, right? And what they discovered was that a lot of the elements that are in the universe that makes up the universe and makes up the galaxy and everything like that, it's in us, right? That's what they saw. Basically, what Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about was that the universe and we as people were made up of the same elements, right? Which means that we are a part of the universe, right? We're connected to the universe. We are the universe, right? And when you think about it like that, you can look around the world. And you can see how the world works and kind of, think about your body in the same way. Like, if you pour water on the ground, what happens? It absorbs it, right? And you can kind of think the same thing about your body. It evaporates too, but we're not getting into that. A lot of it's absorbed, okay? It's just like this case here. A lot of it wasn't inhaled or drank. It was absorbed, okay? That's what we're talking about right here. But I think that's crazy, man. And it's crazy how the mind works, right? Your brain will make you think or do certain things to protect itself, right? And this is a sad case of that, right? And I wish that we as people, we knew a little bit more about our bodies, because if she knew that, I don't know if she would have done it. But then again, also too, you have to think about it. She was probably just going to stay in there for a little bit and then accidentally fell asleep, type of a deal. So I don't know. This is a sad story, but it was just a very interesting story. So this next story came from the Patreon Patriarch, and it's really not like a story or anything, but my dad was, he sends me Instagram videos all the time, right? He'll send me this big old list, so I'll go through them and I'll look through them, and a lot of them are pretty interesting stories, right? And one that I found pretty interesting, I was on the phone with him, he said, Joe, he said, do you know McDonald's is serving fried chicken, right? And spaghetti? And I was like, I heard they was doing spaghetti, but that was a long time ago. That was like late 90s, early 2000s that I heard they was doing spaghetti, right? And I was like, but I didn't know if they was doing fried chicken. I was like, you talking about like in-bone chicken? We talking about like chicken strips, because they did the chicken strips. He was like, no, it's in-bone chicken. I was like, I don't know if I would trust it, right? And then I went to go look this up, and that's not something that they actually do here in the United States. They do that in the Philippines, right? And so then I started looking through their menu, right? And I was thinking to myself, in different countries, they eat different things. So the McDonald's, even though they kind of have to stick with the same thing they have to kind of mix it up for other countries. So I was like, okay, if the McDonald's in the Philippines can do something like this, what about the other McDonald's around the world? So that's what we are going to dive into, right? Just talk about some of the menu items and some of the unique McDonald's around the world. So in the Philippines, of course, we just talked about, you can get a 2-piece chicken meal and spaghetti, right? And they, on their meal, when I was looking through that, you can probably get a 2-piece with almost damn near everything, right? Or you can get some spaghetti with damn near everything. It's like a chicken shack, you go down to, what's it, Roscoe's Chicken Shack, and they say, you get ice cream and a piece of chicken. You can come get your medicine from the pharmacy and a piece of chicken, right? That's how this McDonald's is. All right. I didn't know, my boy Matt at work, he was telling me that in Chicago, there's a McDonald's that has a buffet. And I was just like, what you talking about, Willis? A McDonald's that got buffet? Like, everybody know that McDonald's breakfast is probably the best part of McDonald's. You could probably eat McDonald's breakfast all day. All day. Right? And so I was like, now you're telling me they got a buffet? So I looked this up. Yeah, and in Chicago, what is it? I had the address. This McDonald's located on 1035 West Randolph Street in Chicago, Illinois. It has a McDonald's buffet. And these prices run from $10 to $20 a person, right? So that means if you got all the McMuffins, all the eggs that aren't good, all the burritos, you know what? Actually, let's sit down and let's think about this, okay? Right? We already know McDonald's food ain't the healthiest, right? Okay? And it's so bad, people talk about it. Like, McDonald's food is so bad, it is like the only fast food place that you go and eat and you feel bad afterwards, right? I go to Burger King, Rally's, Wendy's. I can go to all these places and eat it and be like, man, that was delicious, man. That was pretty good, I should not be going to McDonald's, getting a double cheeseburger, right, with fries and a burn your soul Sprite, right? Eat all of that. And then 2 hours later, feel like I got a freaking rock in my stomach, right? Like, literally, McDonald's stomach does the opposite of White Castle. See, when you eat White Castle, it makes everything loose, and now you go into the bathroom, right? Now, it's the opposite with McDonald's, okay? See, I'm one of them people, I've done this before. Like, if I knew that I was going to be working for a long time and I wasn't going to have a chance to eat like dinner or something, I'll go to McDonald's and I'll get me a double cheeseburger with fries and a Sprite. And I know that's going to hold me for the next 2 or 3 days, right? Like, it's going to be one of them things to be like, dang, man, 1, why am I not hungry? And 2, why have I not been to the bathroom in like 3 days, okay? And it's because of the McDonald's, okay? So now we know McDonald's is unhealthy, okay? So now you're telling me you got this unhealthy McDonald's, okay? And now you're telling me you got buffets. We all know about buffets, right? And the people can get as much food as they want, right? But just all like the diseases and stuff, like people, just sticking their fingers in there. You got little kids that'll go to the chocolate fountain, dip their pineapple in it, take their pineapple out, lick it, and then put it back in, and then they walk off, and then you come back, and you like, oh yeah, I'm going to eat some of this chocolate, and it's got little Billy's germs in it. The buffets are disgusting. So now you've got the unhealthy McDonald's and the unhealthy buffet, and you bring them together, and they get married. Now you're serving it to people. When you start thinking about it, it's a bad idea, but I'm interested. But this next one is a Bulgogi burger, a South Korean dish that's a take on Korean barbecue meat in a sweet and spicy sauce served with a pork patty. McDonald's is doing barbecue, right? Y'all think the McRib is good. That sounds real good. I go to South. Wait. Okay, I go to South Korea. I won't go to North Korea, but so I go to South Korea and go get this thing. The next one is the Toro pie, A pie sold in Asian markets with crust filled with a sweet purple chunky mashed potato like filling made from taro, a purple tuber that grows in the Pacific island. This looked pretty good, right? I don't like the way they described it. Like it was good for a second. It was like crust filled, perfect, with a sweet, perfect, purple. I like the color purple, right? Not the, I mean, I like the movie, but I just like the color, purple, chunky. Ooh. Okay, it's sweet. Okay, that's fine. In a crust, that's fine. Purple, that's fine. Chunky. Oh no. Okay. Oh no. All right, and then mashed potato like. Who like chunky mashed potatoes? I don't really like my mashed potatoes chunky. Like they can have a little bit of potato in there. Like a little bit of chunkiness, but not too much chunkiness. So now you got something. It's purple, it's chunky, and it's mashed potatoes, right? And that's the feeling of it. It did look pretty good. I just don't like the description of it. This next one really caught my eye. It's called a McSpicy Paneer. Okay, one of McDonald's most delectable inventions. The brilliant burger was designed with cheese lovers in mind. McSpicy Paneer, founded in India, contains a spicy or a crispy patty made with paneer, a cheese popular in Indian cooking. It comes with a creamy tandoori sauce and crispy lettuce toppings. Also inside a classic McDonald's sesame seed bun. That looked really, really good. I had to go look up what paneer was. So I was just like, what is this? And it's basically just Indian cheese. But I don't know why we haven't talked about this on the show before, because I knew that certain places did different things at McDonald's, right? Like in Israel, you can't mix your meat with your cheese, so they don't have cheeseburgers, right? Or in India, they have things like the paneer because the cows are a sacred animal, so they don't have hamburgers there, right? So it's just very interesting to go see McDonald's around the world, right? I would love to do that. They'd be like, Joe, what you gonna do? You know how that man, he just ate McDonald's every single day and lost weight? Well, I'm about to do the same thing, but I'm about to go around the world type of a deal there. So those are some McDonald's that are around the world, and those are our crazy stories. We'll be right back after this. We're gonna get serious. Let's get serious. Illinois, the Prairie State, the home of Lincoln, Richard Pryor, Bernie Mac, the birthplace of the horseshoe, the birthplace of the cozy dog, and of course, my home state, right? They just passed a law that will be enacted January 1 of 2025. It's an Illinois tax cut for groceries, right? Governor J.B. Pritzker has signed into law HB 3144, a significant piece of legislation that will eliminate the 1% state tax on grocery items in Illinois. It's set to take effect on January 1, actually, I'm sorry, not 2025, 2026. Right, to ease the financial burden of Illinois families by reducing the cost of grocery shopping. Now, what is this thing going to do? So HB 3114 would repeal the state tax 1% or state's 1% tax on grocery and authorize counties and municipalities to impose their own 1% tax on groceries. So it's going to go from the state to the actual company. So if you got a mom and pop shop, right, they're not going to depend on the government to set the tax on it. They're going to have the mom and pop shop set the tax on it. I'm hoping that when they do this, they will actually set like a cap, right? Because now that you've put it, you got the government, they're just like, yeah, we can tax them, but we can't tax them too much because then they're going to revolt. But now that we're putting it into the store owner's hands, is there going to be a cap on it, right? So just some questions I would like to answer. So groceries no longer are subject to the tax, which include any food for human consumption that is to be consumed off premises where it is sold. Food prepared for immediate consumption, alcohol beverages, soft drinks, candy items, and food infused with cannabis would still be subject to the to the state's full tax rate. So, basically, yeah, a lot of stuff. So anything that's not in a grocery store, basically, is still going to have that 1% tax. Any local grocery store taxes enacted or ordinance will be administered and enforced by the Illinois Department of Revenue. So I guess even though it's going to these mom and pop shops, they are still going to be supervised by the Illinois Department of Revenue. The repeal of the 1% grocery tax in Illinois will mean that the residents will no longer have to pay this extra amount on their grocery bills starting in 2026. For example, if you spend $100 on groceries, you would save $1. While this might seem small, it can add up over time, especially for families and individuals with tight budgets. However, it is important to note that local governments in Illinois can still impose their own grocery taxes if they choose. So the actual impact might vary depending on where you live in the state. So, like I said earlier, this was one of those things where the local grocery store, they can put their own tax on whatever, right? So if I go down to Springfield, Illinois is kind of like a little big town, right? So the people there, the Walmart or the stores there, they're probably going to still have a tax, but it's not going to be that high, right? Then you go up to somewhere like Chicago, right? You go to Chicago, of course, everything's 10 times expensive up there. So I don't know if stuff's going to change up there. You know what I mean? Like the state's like, yes, we're going to relinquish the tax here. We're not going to do anything about it. But this is basically one of them things where Abraham Lincoln was like, listen, slavery is done. Nobody can have a slave, right? But we gonna let y'all figure that out down south. Y'all figure that out on how y'all do it. You know, like it's a law where y'all can't have slaves, but we gonna like relinquish the responsibility to you, and you deal with these people how you want, because I don't want to deal with it, right? Type of a deal. That's basically how this is. So this really, technically, it really don't mean anything, right? So it does, but it doesn't. It's just the government taking responsibility off of them and putting it on the mom and pop shops, right? And then they can just do whatever they want. That's why I was saying I hope that they have a cap on it, right? So you can't just sit there and just gouge these people, right? So basically, Illinois is trying to make the state better financially for its residents. But it goes back to an episode I did a couple weeks ago, the federal and state laws on age of consent. How can the bigger government put a law into place and the smaller government choose to abide or refuse the law, right? Like, how is the government going to say we're going to take away the 1% tax, but we're still going to give the responsibility to the mom and pop shops, and they can do whatever the hell they want? So now you go to these mom and pop shops. What if there is no cap? Now, instead of having the 1% tax and these stores in Chicago, maybe the mom and pop shop can do 2 or 3%. So now people are even paying more, right? Like I said, this is just the government. This is just the government taking responsibility off of them and putting it onto the smaller businesses there. So what do you think about that? Do you think it's a good thing? That's what I want to know. Do you think it's a good thing? My people in Illinois, tell me what you think about this, right? Do you think this is going to be a good thing to happen? Or do you think it's going to be a bad thing to happen? Like I said, if you live anywhere probably south of Chicago, it's probably really not going to affect you that much, right? You're probably going to be at the 1% or maybe lower than the 1%. But up there in Chicago, that's what I'm worried about. Up there in the bigger cities, Chicago, Peoria, Champaign, this is where they have a lot of people, a lot of tourists and stuff like that. You know, Springfield's even kind of that town that has a lot of tourists in there. So are they going to keep are they going to raise the tax, or are they going to lower it? I'm really interested to see what happens with this here. So, the slinky was accidentally invented during World War II. In 1943, naval engineer Richard James was working on springs to stabilize sensitive equipment on ships. One day, he accidentally knocked over a spring, and to his surprise, it walked down a shelf instead of falling. This fun fact is brought to you by Gateway Pro Production. Photography, video, or audio, Gateway Pro is there to help you make memories last forever. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Balderdash Podcast. Now, remember, I cannot deal with all the craziness and information myself, so be sure to like, subscribe, and comment about any episodes. You can drop us a line at Gateway Pro Productions on Facebook, the Balderdash Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or on Instagram at balderdash_2020. Don't forget to check out our merch on tpublics.com/GWP. We'll see you guys next week on another episode of the Balderdash Podcast. See you guys later.